Listen closely because this is one of the most scandalous pause clout-chasing situations recently. Claressa Shields allegedly wrote a diss track about Remy Ma before Remy even acknowledged her but never released it out of fear. It's not just rumors, but a paper trail tied to her actions that I'm breaking down. Most people miss the real story by focusing on surface drama. The key point is that 50 Cent allegedly learned about Maserati Bud's link to Claressa Shields because she herself is said to have provided the information that exposed everything. She allegedly instructed Bud to send the record to 50 Cent in hopes of getting a public shout-out. But the moment Bud paused messaged 50 with the track, 50 checked the sender, saw the title and artist, and responded with a blunt line that completely shut everything down, asking why he was being pushed to promote her music when she had never asked him for a favor before. That single moment exposed the weak point in the entire story. If you pull that thread, the whole narrative starts to fall apart. Most people missed it, but I followed the details closely, and now we break it all down from a different angle. Claressa Shields, the Olympic gold medalist often labeled the boxing GOAT, has built her image on being fearless, dominant, and untouchable, constantly promoting a persona of being different from everyone else, ready to take on anyone in or out of competition. However, behind that bold public branding, it's alleged that she was quietly involved in late-night studio sessions with Maserati Bud, where they worked on lyrics and developed material aimed at Remy Ma months before any public attention on the situation. The contrast being highlighted is between her aggressive public image and these reported behind-the-scenes collaborations, suggesting she was preparing content and building momentum long before the drama ever surfaced. She allegedly loaded the chamber first, then completely froze, locking the diss track away in a vault that still sits unused on a producer's hard drive. The question being raised is why someone who built her image on fearlessness and always striking first would write a full diss record and then back out at the last moment. The explanation suggested is that releasing it would have opened up uncomfortable questions about how the collaboration even started and why she was in the studio with Maserati Bud in the first place. In that framing, she is seen as stepping into her own trap, realizing too late that the track could be interpreted as more than just music, but as something far more revealing about what was happening behind the scenes. While everyone focuses on the alleged affair or the lyrics, the real point being highlighted is the moment the situation supposedly escalated, the DM that started it all. It's claimed that Claressa Shields told Maserati Bud to send the song to 50 Cent and ask him to post it. Given 50 Cent's reputation for publicly exposing industry drama and escalating rap beefs, the idea is that she was deliberately trying to use his platform as a megaphone. Since 50 is closely associated with Remy Ma, the expectation is that she would have known the potential consequences, making the decision appear calculated and highly provocative in the context of their industry connections. Anyone even slightly familiar with the industry knows 50 Cent and Remy Ma go way back. They've worked together, appeared on each other's projects, and publicly shown mutual respect over the years. Against that backdrop, the idea is that sending a diss track involving Remy to 50 was a highly questionable move, not a calculated strategy. In this version of events, Maserati Bud allegedly delivered the request directly, openly asking 50 to post the record without much subtlety. 50's reaction is described as immediate and measured. He pauses, assesses the situation, and reacts in a way that signals he recognizes the context behind what he's being asked to do. 50 is described as immediately picking up on the unusual request and responding with a pointed question about why he's being asked to post her music when that had never happened before, and what the real connection between Bud and Claressa actually is. That moment is framed as the turning point where private rumors became something more direct under pressure, with Bud allegedly confirming the relationship in response. Instead of reacting loudly, 50 is portrayed as staying composed, taking in the information, and mentally filing it away rather than acting on it immediately. In this narrative, he's seen as treating it as leverage for a future moment, keeping it stored until it could be used strategically later. This is being framed not as paranoia, but as pattern recognition, describing 50 Cent as someone who doesn't respond impulsively, but instead collects information and stores it for future leverage. The narrative then shifts focus to Claressa Shields, suggesting her connection to Maserati Bud wasn't driven by romance or music alone, but by proximity to influence and access to powerful industry circles. It ties her behavior back to her background, painting a picture of someone who rose from poverty and constant dismissal, and who is portrayed as having fought for recognition in environments that underestimated her. After winning the gold medal and reaching the peak of her boxing career, the narrative suggests she adopted a mindset of refusing to remain unseen or limited, aiming instead to be present in influential spaces and connected to powerful networks. In this framing, her public statements about ambition and doing whatever it takes are used to interpret her actions as intentional pursuit of access and visibility. Maserati Bud is then positioned as someone with connections that could extend her reach into larger industry circles, particularly through 50 Cent's influence. From that perspective, their collaboration is portrayed not just as creative involvement, but as an attempt to move closer to wider exposure and opportunity within the entertainment industry. The narrative here is that the connection wasn't really about Maserati Bud himself, but about what he represented in terms of access to a wider industry network. In that framing, he is seen less as the goal and more as a pathway into bigger opportunities and visibility. However, the strategy ultimately collapses once the realities of those industry relationships come into play. Since 50 Cent has a known long-standing connection with Remy Ma, the idea of him promoting a diss aimed at her would be highly unlikely. As a result, the track is portrayed as becoming effectively unusable, left finished but without any viable platform, support, or endorsement to bring it forward. The moment 50 Cent reacted with visible skepticism, the situation reportedly began to shift. When Remy Ma eventually caught wind of the tension, she is described as responding quickly with a sharp, decisive verse that ended the exchange almost immediately, leaving little room for escalation or follow-up. In contrast, Claressa Shields, who had been publicly outspoken and confrontational with various figures in sports and media, did not respond in kind. Instead of continuing the exchange through music, interviews, or social media, she is portrayed as stepping back entirely and remaining silent, allowing the situation to fade without further public engagement. In this version, Claressa Shields is said to have a finished response track but hesitates to release it because it could renew scrutiny around how her collaboration with Maserati Bud began. Remy Ma is framed as having the upper hand by responding once and then stepping back, turning the outcome into a one-sided resolution shaped by silence. Claressa is also described as navigating a status triangle between legacy, visibility, and industry access, where proximity to influence increases scrutiny over time. Once 50 Cent enters, he shifts balance through awareness, leaving situations settled behind scenes, despite public perception differences still ongoing. Ride it again. She's not really angry at the listeners or the people in the gym, and she's not even directly targeting the artist who clearly outshined her. Because coming at Remy would mean actually engaging, and engaging would mean dropping a response track. And once that drops, everyone would rush to Google asking who Maserati Bud is and why his name is in the credits. So instead of entering the fight, she redirects her energy toward the crowd and starts policing the audience. Rather than taking the hit, she gets upset that people are watching it unfold. That's not real strength, it's more like panic packaged as control. A persona built on being a warrior starts to collapse the moment real receipts appear, and when those receipts are undeniable, the whole image begins to fall apart. And right now we're watching it unravel in real time across every platform, in every awkward interview where she looks like she's searching for an escape route. She had plenty to say about Tasha K, plenty to say about Joisha 305, plenty to say about Frank Hun and Isla, but the moment it came to the one artist she actually aimed a track at, everything went quiet. That whole GOAT image started to crack the second real opposition entered the picture. Now it doesn't feel like a brand anymore. It feels like a running joke, a warning story people in the industry will repeat for years. Don't challenge people whose receipts outweigh your highlight moments. And what no one is openly saying yet, but becomes hard to ignore, is that the real value in that collaboration wasn't money or contracts, because the payoff for Maserati Bud being on that record seemed to come from something far beyond finance. We all understand how the industry's informal barter system works, where late-night studio sessions and blurred boundaries lead to mixed interpretations. In this framing, claims are treated as competing narratives rather than conspiracies, often based on statements attributed to Bud. The situation is portrayed as someone contributing to their own downfall through decisions that set events in motion. Claressa Shields is positioned as initiating a escalates tensions, while Remy Ma remains unaffected, and 50 Cent is seen as observant figure aware of unfolding information. The narrative describes an ongoing chain of events shaped by perception, timing, and differing accounts. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Does Claressa ever release that track, or does it stay buried? Does 50 ever act on what he knows or keep it as long-term leverage? And does Maserati Bud eventually end up telling the full story? Either way, this feels like only Act 2. I'll be tracking every update, every post, and every shift as it unfolds, so make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on if you want to stay ahead. This isn't just chatter, it's an ongoing timeline, and now you've got the context.